Channelstv.com has more information for you. And on youtube.com/channels web, you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. Now, besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app have an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos, and news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. So we have some of the pictures that you sent into our platform. We're going to begin with this one here in Lagos. So I see an image showing the state of the road at Alakija bus stop in Ojo local government area of Lagos Badagry Expressway. According to the eyewitness, this is more or less what the entire road, which stretches to Seme border, looks like. He is worried about the risk this poses to road users, as well as the constant presence of uniformed men and numerous checkpoints, which adds to the difficulty associated with plying that route. So they say, according to this eyewitness reporter, looking at that, you'd think that's a large body of water, but it's not. It's a submerged road. The eyewitness reporter says it is an abandoned road in Ogidiben Escravos in Warri South local government area of Delta State. The eyewitness describes it as a death trap and wants the state authorities to look into it. We have this picture of what an eyewitness from Kaduna State says is a major road in Kamazu off Yakowa Expressway. The road is said to be a link to the frequently traveled Kaduna-Abuja Express Road. The concern here is that this road should be given attention in order to ease the experience of travelers. Thank you for sending in those pictures, and we do look forward to having many more from you. Governor Tanko Almakura of Nasarawa State has charged stakeholders in the education sector to take advantage of the educational support being provided by his administration. He was speaking during the flag-off of distribution of beds, mattresses, chairs and tables to primary and junior secondary schools in the state capital, Lafia. The governor says the gestures, among many others, aimed at leaving the education sector better than he met it.
Every child deserves to learn in a conducive environment devoid of threats to health and safety. However, the learning environment in Nasarawa State before the administration of Governor Tanko Almakura was characterized by inadequate infrastructure, among others, which made the learning a difficult task. This situation prompted the governor to prioritize the education sector, contributing over 8 billion naira to the Universal Basic Education Commission as counterpart funding.
Between the period under review 2011 to date, His Excellency has, in conjunction with the UBEC, provided fund for counterpart in the sum of over 8 billion naira. This has enabled the state to provide accommodation, comfortable accommodation for our pupils in primary and junior secondary schools across the state.
Even as his tenure winds down, he makes an impact in the sector as 7,000 beds and mattresses alongside 33,000 chairs and tables are distributed to schools in dire need. He uses the medium to call on stakeholders to leverage on the gesture to achieve a foundation of quality education.
I believe what we are doing in the South State is a foundation for greater future for our leaders of tomorrow. I want to enjoin you as education secretaries to take your job seriously now that the schools are properly equipped, a good environment, refurbished, rehabilitated with roads, with perimeter, fence to secure the children.
School heads who received the items expressed appreciation to the governor with a promise to ensure their safety.
To thank the executive governor of Nasarawa State for his compassionate effort in providing instructional materials to our younger generations.
Our joy knows no bound. you have added value to education in Nasarawa State. And the only thing that we will do is to complement your effort by making sure that we keep these materials safe.
The consideration given to the education sector in Nasarawa State over the most recent 8 years has persevered through surprising advancement, which is apparent in the nature of public schools. Halima Gayam, Channels Television News.
The story is not any better is not the same though in every part of the country. Our next report takes a look at some of the challenges confronting the education sector and efforts being made to address them.
The violent Boko Haram insurgency, endemic corruption and challenges common to many sub-Saharan countries such as low life expectancy, inadequacies in public health systems, income inequalities and high literacy rates and gross underfunding of the education sector are some of the challenges bedeviling the sector. Drastic reduction in public spending following a recent recession has affected government services nationwide. The situation is not different in the education sector, as the sector continues to suffer dwindling budgetary allocations, falling far below the UNESCO standard of 26%. Some of the problems bedeviling the education sector from primary to tertiary level include poor funding, inadequate facilities and space, frequent change in school curriculum, low staff morale and politics between the federal and states, which have contributed to the current number of out-of-school children. Students' protests and strikes, which have also rocked Nigerian universities for years, can be said to be symptoms of a severely underfunded higher education system. Despite these constraints, the country remains a growth market for international students largely funded by their rich parents. This is largely because of the overwhelming and unmet demand among college-age Nigerians. Nigeria's higher education sector has been overburdened by strong population growth and a significant and rapid expansion of the nation's higher education sector in recent decades has failed to deliver the spaces to accommodate demand. The place of secondary school education in the country's educational system is of paramount importance. However, it appears that secondary schools are not living up to expectations in discharging their obligations. Some education experts argue that the products of today's secondary school system can either usefully live in the society or move into higher institution without their parents' aid. The establishment of the Universal Basic Education Commission is yet to address these problems, as many states fail to provide their counterpart funding to enable them access funds from the Commission. It is, however, pertinent for the government of the day to design suitable guidelines for the funding of education. For instance, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has recommended that 26% of the total budget of the nation be allocated to education. The percentage of recurrent budgetary allocation to education by various administrations has never exceeded 10%.
Let's talk some more about this now. Channels TV's data consultant, Mr. Babajide Ogunsonwo, joins us now on the news at 10, and he has a crystal ball again. I guess we'll be looking into that today.
There's a lot to see.
A lot. Well, let's begin from the federal government, which intends to enhance the school curriculum with a focus on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Is there a magic wand for skills development, and how will that be measured?
You talked about magic wand. I don't know if it's a magic wand, if STEAM is a magic wand, but I think it's a wand of hope. Especially because what the federal government expects is that these new skills will translate to entrepreneurship. So if there's a way to measure the success of STEAM, we'll expect that the government will see an upward collection of taxes, especially personal income taxes in the medium to long term. But let me ask you a question, Amarachi. Today, if you had a choice between a public primary school and a private school, between a public primary school and a private school, which will you send your daughter to?
I'm the one asking the questions here, Babajide.
But tonight, allow me to ask the questions quickly.
Well, ordinarily, ideally, a private school, I mean, because of the way the public schools are right now, dilapidated buildings, inadequate teachers, and so on, you would think a private school would be better, right?
But a private school for you is an option because you can afford it. Oh. For several other parents, the option facing them is between a public school and a no school. Think about that for a moment. While some parents have the option of a public school and a private school, several others are faced within two options of a public school and no school, and that is why they go for a public school. But while it is important that the government focuses on improving the quality of education through the curriculum of schools, I'd like to share a slightly different perspective with you. You know, in Nigeria, especially among Christians from the Southwest, they have a popular song, and in Yoruba, the translation in English goes thus: that only the living can praise the Lord, the dead cannot praise the Lord. And in Islam, they also follow the same philosophy. If you look at the Quran, chapter 1, verse 5, here's what I mean. Only those that are in school can benefit from the new curriculum. He who is not in school has no curriculum to benefit from. And so while it is important for the quality of the curriculum to go higher, it is also important to get the number of out-of-school children into schools. We need to reduce those numbers.
Will that really be the solution? Wouldn't it be upgrading the schools? I mean, the idea is to have public schools that people can go to. Wouldn't the idea be to upgrade those schools, to upgrade, you know, the education in those schools, upgrade the curriculum, upgrade the kind of teachers they have, upgrade the kind of buildings that they have?
Upgrading is one option, and it is a good option. But let us understand the impact of 10 million children who are out of school. Consider this. The best estimate we have for the total number of Boko Haram fighters, we've got a maximum of 5,000 fighters. However, we have 10 million children that are out of school. In other words, for every Boko Haram fighter that the Nigerian army kills, there's a potential of another 2,000 that will rise in another 10 years. For instance, let's look at the data we have on public schools and private schools. Let's start with public schools. The data shows that entry into public primary schools, over 22 million. The challenge we have today, Amarachi, is that we have 22 million children going into public primary schools, and then we have a significantly lower number going into public junior secondary schools. And so we have, the data shows from 22 million to less than 5 million people that go into public secondary schools. And it even goes lower when we look at entry into public secondary schools. Similar, yes, a fewer number of Nigerians attend private schools, but the data also shows that a few people attend private primary schools. The number goes lower for those that attend junior secondary schools, and it goes even further lower for those that attend senior secondary schools. And so the challenge is three. The first is we need to get out of school children into schools. Yeah. The second is we need to ensure that the quality of education, which the government is trying to do, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, that the quality of education goes higher. And the third is we need to ensure that children stay in school. Because the evidence we see from the data that was shown both in public and private schools is that a lot of children are dropping out of primary schools.
Babajide, thank you for bringing this to light, and I hope that the authorities, of course, are listening. All of this you said without looking into your crystal ball. So
no, but the future shows that learning will still be the most important skill for the next 10 decades. So learning is going to be the most important skill, and that is what the forecast shows for the next 10 years.
Certainly. Thanks again, Babajide, for joining us on the News at 10.
The pleasure is always mine.